Hey, welcome back. My name is James Johnson, and my expertise lies in retirement and estate planning. And in today's video, I'm going to teach you why the talking heads on TV and radio, such as Dave Ramsey, are wrong about financing things the right way. You have to ask yourself a question. Who are they really talking to? Is there a better way? You see, the reality is that wealthy people use leverage the right way. No one's ever taught you this in school, but you finance everything you buy. You either finance it using your money and losing the opportunity cost on your money, or you use the bank's money and you pay interest on it. And what's better than OPM or other people's money? So let's get started and let me show you what I mean here about how all of this works. You see, there are three types of people. There are what are called the spenders. And if we pretend that here we have a line of zero, and zero means that we have no money, so what spenders do is they go out and they always operate below the zero line. They borrow and live below the zero line. The savers are exactly the opposite. What they do is they save, buy, and live at the zero line. So whenever they need something, they save up for it, and then they buy it, and they're always at the zero line, but never below the zero line. And then we have what are called the wealth creators. You save, you borrow, you buy, and you live above the zero line. So let's go on and I'll explain to you the difference between these and how these exactly work. Now, if you've been around for any time watching me, you have what's called your personal economic model, and you understand that money flows down this big tank over here, hits the tax filter, and then it's consumed and it's gone forever. So the spender spends 100% of the income focused only on today. They have no collateral. And the only option for major capital purchases is credit. So they go out and they use their future income obligations to pay for that which they want today. They always need to get what they need today and are not willing to wait. Well, the saver is a little bit different from that. They save at work for their future in things such as 401ks or IRAs or 453s, 457s, whatever the case may be. And then in addition to that, they save extra for current lifestyle expenses. So when it comes to a major capital purchase for them, say buying a house or buying a car, or even so much as going on a vacation, they will save up that money to do that. Now, they like paying cash to avoid debt and interest. So when the time comes, they pay cash from their savings and replenish it, but without interest. Now, this is if they in fact replenish it, but generally what they'll do is they'll go back to building back up that savings account. Now, the wealth creators, on the other hand, they go out and they save the amount of money they need for today and for tomorrow. They diversify their accounts and create some access for capital. Now, when it comes to buying something, they use that capital to collateralize their purchase. So they borrow for purchases using collateralization, meaning that they leave their money in place working for them while also using it to buy whatever it is they're going to buy. And then they pay loan and interest from current lifestyle. Now, if we look out over here, we can see our entire personal economic model here. And as you know, the money flows down through the big tank, past the tax filter, etc., unless you're putting it in through the qualified accounts. So let's say we've got some money saved up out here. And what we really want to understand is we finance everything we buy. So if we go out here, you either borrow from a lender and pay interest. So we can go out to the bank and use our future lifestyle obligations to pay for that. Or we can go out here and save interest and not pay any interest, but we lose the interest we would have earned if we not drained the tank. So Once again, we're the saver. We spend all of our money down, and then we go back to building it back up. So let's look at a purchase scenario here. To illustrate the concept that you finance everything you buy, we're going to assume the following. $30,000 in initial cost. You've saved in your tank, and you need that to make a purchase for that same amount. Well, let's say that the finance rate was 5%. Now, please don't argue with me about finance rates. I'm giving you concepts here. Finance rates are relative. They change all the time. Sometimes they're 3%. Sometimes they're 22%. Follow the numbers and follow the concept because you see, interest rates are relative. So finance rates are 5%. And let's say we can invest it at 5%. So we can make 5% on the side and we paid 5% to finance it. Our term on the loan was 60 months with a payment of $566.14. Well, if we went out here and we had $30,000 in our bank account and we wanted to make that purchase, say we were buying a car, we could just pay cash for it. We require that we drain our entire tank, and draining the tank resets compound interest. So if we go out over here, we could also borrow the money. And if we borrowed the money, then we would have to pay interest. But that would allow our money to earn interest while we're using other people's money, and we get to maintain control of that account. And probably one of the most important concepts for you to understand when it comes to becoming a wealth creator is maintaining control of our money. Because one of the things I can tell you for certain is in life, stuff's going to happen. And when it happens, you want to make sure that you can handle that without having to go out and put a bunch of money on credit cards. So we go out over here by using other people's money, and we just go ahead and we pay that out of our lifestyle while all the time our account's still making money. By the time we get out to the end of that 60-month period of time, our savings account would have $38,501. Now, the interesting thing is the money we borrowed, the interest we would have paid would have been $3,968. But had we had that money and been investing it over that period of time, we would have had an opportunity to make interest on it, which would have been $4,533. And oddly enough, the number that we come out with is we have $38,501 in our savings, and basically it cost us $38,501 to borrow the money. It's an equal number. Interesting, isn't it? Well, what if we went out here and let's say we paid an extra $200 a month towards this mortgage? So we want to pay this mortgage off as fast, or car payment, whatever the case, as fast as we possibly can. Well, if we did that, what we would find is this, is that we would end up paying out $36,427. Now, if we could finance it at 1.9% and make 5% on it, well, then that would be an incredible deal, and we would be far ahead by financing it. But if we reverse the roles, and let's say that our finance rate was actually 5%, and we could only make 1.9% on it, then we might be better off actually not financing it, but paying cash. But I think the most important thing to understand here is even if that was the case, we would lower the gains in our tank, but we would have less control over our money. So having control of your money is sometimes far more important than actually being able to pay it off and not pay interest. But the choice is always yours. You get to make the choice one way or another. Realistically, in most cases, not always, we can generally borrow for less than what we can make on the side. And the thing that it's important to understand is that when we're borrowing money, we're paying on a declining balance and we're making on an increasing balance. So we don't always have to be making the same rate of return as what we borrow at to come out ahead. So over here, if we didn't borrow, if we actually went and just paid off the house, then we would lose the opportunity cost on that. Now, let's say we did do that, and then we went out here and we went to pay it off. Well, first off, we lost control of our purchasing dollars and we lost interest that would be in that account. Now, if we went and we, instead of paying the car, we went and paid it back into our savings account, yes, we would get there, but chances are, let's just say for the sake of argument here, let's stop this for 1 second and let's back this up here. Let's say that we got right here to this point right here and we had an emergency. Well, let's say it was a $20,000 emergency. Where would we get the money from? And chances are we'd be running out and we'd be taking the money out on a credit card at a much higher interest rate than having had that safety still in our account. So stepping that forward, we'll see that over that period of time, what will ultimately happen is our opportunity cost on that money will end up being that $8,401, $501, and we would have the money back in our account. All the time, we would have a car, but we wouldn't have access to our cash. So when we go back over here, some of the things that we want to consider are this. Assuming you earn the same rate of interest you would have paid if you borrow, the cost will always be the same. Paying cash drains the tank and resets compound interest. If money in your tank could earn more interest than it costs to borrow, consider the opportunity cost of draining the tank plus giving up control. And I've stated that a few times. You want to really remember that cash is king, and actually having access to that cash should something happen is way more important than paying a little bit of interest along the way. Maintaining control of your money may even be worth paying higher interest rates. And if the cost more to borrow than you can earn, perhaps you should consider other tank alternatives. Paying cash is financing, and it is self-financing. I always love it when a person says, I paid cash for my house. I say, oh, you financed it. They said, no, you weren't listening to me. I said, I paid cash for my house. I said, you weren't listening to me. You financed it. You see, one way or another, it gets financed. Either you finance it with your money or you finance it with someone else's money. The choice is always yours. So let's talk a little bit about a private reserve strategy. Now, the benefits is increased savings and lower financial stress. So what we do is the strategy combines a unique type of savings account with a new approach to your major capital purchases. So we've got our account that we've built up out here, but when it comes time to get money, rather than using our money, we're going to use our money to collateralize the borrowing. So we keep our money in place, still making money, while we're also over making payments to pay off that debt. The key is to save in an account with accessibility through collateralization. You finance everything you buy. You either pay interest or you give up the ability to earn interest. There are 3 types of behavior. It's spender, saver, and wealth creator. To be a wealth creator, you will need a private reserve strategy. So if I've built up this bucket out over here, I can go to the financial institution and I can use that to collateralize my loan. So now when I go out and I buy that car or whatever major purchase that I'm going to make, I'll have a structured principal and interest payment. That payment will go back to the institution, and then over time that lien would go away. The power of this strategy is that you continue to earn compound interest on the collateralized funds. So my money doesn't go anywhere. It stays right there. I still have access to it, and it's earning while simultaneously I'm taking care of my major capital purchase. So if we were looking for the perfect account out there, I would guess that you would say, I would want to grow it tax deferred. I'd like to be able to take out tax-free distributions. I'd like competitive rates of return. I'd like to be able to put in as much as I possibly could without having any kind of limitations on it. I'd like to be able to deduct the contributions that I made to the account. I'd like to be able to collateralize it. Of course, that would be important if we were going to do this strategy. I'd like it to be safe. I'd like to be no loss provisions, guaranteed loan options, unstructured loan payments, meaning that I could pay it back or not pay it back or pay it back at whatever speed I want to pay it back. Liquidity use and control, meaning I have access to it when I need it, if I need it. And then maybe some additional benefits on top of that. While many accounts will work as a private reserve strategy, there are some that work better than others. So let's take a look at some of these accounts that we currently use. Well, we could look at our savings and our money market account, and what we would see is that basically we have 5 things here out of all of those things that we want. We can put in as much as we want. We might be able to collateralize that. We certainly could go to the bank and say, I have $100,000 sitting over here in this account. I'd like to get a loan against that. It's safe. It has a no loss provision, and it can have no loss provision. I mean, if it's savings or money market account, it's pretty much safe. And it's liquidity use and control. Well, if we look over here at a certificate of certificate of deposit, we can put in as much as possible, collateralize opportunities, it's safe, and no loss provisions. Certainly not competitive rates of return. Although today, we're coming into 2024 here, and today everybody says, well, CD rates are great. Well, CD rates are relative. There are much better rates out there on fixed products than CD rates, although CD rates are running up in the 4 to 5% right now. Real estate equity and HELOCs. So we could use our real estate equity and we would have tax-deferred growth. We could collateralize it. And pretty much outside of that, we don't have any of these other things. We could use a margin account on our stock portfolio. Well, we certainly could get competitive rates of return, high contribution limits, collateralized opportunities, guaranteed loan options, and liquidity use and control. We could use our 401k plan. It's tax deferred, it's competitive return, it's deductible, and contributions and additional benefits. Now, people say all the time, well, I can take a loan out of my 401k. Well, let me just encourage you to never do that. And the reason why is you can go to your ERISA plan, your 401k, 403b, 457, and you can take up to a $50,000 loan. But the part they don't tell you is that if at some point you were to lose your job, you must pay that back 100% within 60 days or it becomes a taxable event. And if you're under 59 and a half, not only is it taxable, it's a 10% penalty and it's considered a distribution. So try to avoid from taking money from there. Now, we could also go out and we could use permanent life insurance. Now, I want you to notice that permanent life insurance gives us the most options possible. The only thing it doesn't give us is the deductibility. So when we're putting the money in, we don't get a tax write-off for putting the money in. Otherwise, it gives us pretty much everything we want. Now, if we go out here and we use a properly maximum funded life insurance policy, funded under TEFRA, DEFRA, and TAMRA, we can see that what happens is we do the same thing. We collateralize the loan. So we go to the insurance company and say we want to take out a loan, and we buy whatever purchases that we're going to buy. But now we have a non-structured payment, meaning that we don't have to pay it back, because the insurance company is more than happy to allow that to sit there and not be paid back because they're collateralized based on the cash value that we have inside of our policy. Permanent life insurance, when designed and utilized properly, can provide a stable growth, cash value, collateralization, guaranteed loan access, no annual tax on growth, and death benefits. Additional benefits are available when additional policy riders are put in place. Now, here's the thing. The key word was when designed and utilized properly. Very few people do this correctly, and very few people know how to do it correctly. So it's always important to know what it is you're doing, what the bads are, what your exit strategy is before you head down this direction. And you can always reach out to us to sit down and find out if this makes sense for you. So let's talk about the opportunities inside of these things. Well, if we go out over here and we look at permanent life insurance, we typically are going to use a 6% average rate of return. The reality is that over a long period of time, that average is a little bit higher, but it's better to be conservative and not use a too high of rate of return. Now, the financial opportunity would be, what could we make on our investment somewhere else? It'd be about 6%. So let's say we were going to go take some money out of our life insurance policy, and we were going to either go buy something with it or invest it. But in this particular case, we're going to turn around and we're going to leverage it and we're going to invest it. So we take that same $30,000 and we have a 5% loan rate. That's a guaranteed rate from the insurance company. This is different from company to company. All right. And then we take it out and we invest the money on the side. So we have $30,000 working for us in our permanent life insurance policy, and we have $30,000 working for us out on the side. Saying just making 6%, we could pump that up to 8, 9, 10, whatever, wherever you think you can invest it. Maybe you're going to buy some cryptocurrency, etc. And oh yes, maybe you're going to take some risk with it. That choice would be yours. But you're leveraging your money at this point, just like you would leverage your brokerage account. So when we go out over here, what we see is that we have some interest that we would be paying back here towards this loan. But over here, we have a difference between the interest and what we paid of 1%. That 1% is equivalent to $300 a year. Now, that $300 a year could go a couple different directions. We could put it over here and use it to pay back the loan. So we could pay down this loan over here if we chose to do so. We could go over here and add more opportunity by financially investing it over in what we had over on this side. And or we could go over here and use it to buy some more permanent life insurance. Our choices are ours. But what we're doing is we're being able to leverage our money here when we couldn't have done that otherwise. So the thing to understand is permanent life insurance, when designed correctly and utilized properly, can provide a stable growth for cash value, collateralization, guaranteed loan access, no annual tax or growth on death benefits, and additional benefits are available if you choose. I hope that this helps you to understand the difference between the spender, the saver, and the wealth creator. If you want to know more about permanent life insurance and maximum funded life insurance, we have lots of videos out there on that. You can always reach out to us, set up a no-cost, no-obligation appointment to sit and learn how these strategies would work for you. Remember, it's always a choice, and the choice is yours. Remember to live like you're going to die tomorrow. Plan like you're going to live forever. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel below. Leave some comments on what your thoughts are. Do you believe it? There is such a thing as a spender, a saver, and a wealth creator. Do you believe that you finance everything you buy? Or are you convinced that the only way you finance something is when you finance it with somebody else? I look forward to seeing your comments. Keep smiling, and I look forward to seeing you soon.